Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. Ford is changing its tactics once again. Last month, the company decided to pivot from its electric vehicle plans and into hybrid cars and gas engines. The biggest signal was the phasing out of the EV F-150. Now, that's a big shift from 4 years ago when Ford said it wanted to make EVs account for 40% of global sales by 2030. So why is Ford pivoting again? And what's the future for Ford and other automakers? To discuss this, we have Paul Eisenstein here. He's a contributing editor for Headlight.News and a contributor to dozens of media outlets, including Japan's Nikkei. Paul, welcome to the Metro.
Yeah, good to be with you. And by the way, I happen to own one of those F-150 Lightnings.
How do you like it?
I love it. Do I understand that there are some challenges, particularly with the nationwide charging network, which is probably one of the biggest drawbacks that EV owners experience right now? Though the good news is that the EV charging stations are going in by the hundreds, in some cases even the thousands, every month across the country. So just in the 3.5 years I've had it, it's become far easier to find charging than it was when I bought it in August of 2022.
I mean, I've got to say, Paul, that driving an EV feels very empowering. It feels very liberating. My partner just bought one, and all I can think when I'm sitting in the passenger seat of this car is that this is the way of the future. And so in that respect, this really feels like a step backward.
It is in a sense. It's not a complete surprise. I think you saw California and the Biden administration get a little bit out in front of where the market is and even where the technology is. And I'd like to talk about something in a couple moments about the newest technology, which we're seeing here at the Consumer Electronics Show where I'm at. But back
you're in CES in Las Vegas right now.
Yes, I am. The reality is a lot of people are still trying to figure out whether it's right for them. In many parts of the country, it isn't. There's still places where we have charging deserts. In other words, it's hard to find public charging if you're traveling more than you might be able to do just on the charge you get at home. Some people drive big vehicles. They tow heavy loads. And in that case, it might not be right for them. I know people, well, you live in Detroit, you know plenty of people that have pickups, that have trailers, boats, and so on that they might want to try taking up to Traverse City or the UP and the like. And for those people, it may not be the right solution. So, we probably did get a little bit ahead of where the reality of the market should be. That said, I think a lot of people, when they get into EVs, are stunned with how good they are, yes, particularly on the smaller side. And one more thing, not to drag on too long, let me make it very clear that Ford is not abandoning EVs. They are getting out of the F-150. They're maintaining the Mustang Mach-E, and they have an entirely new family of what they call the Universal EV, which are smaller, more affordable EVs, which will launch production sometime next year.
And still, we have to acknowledge, Paul, that Ford has lost $13 billion on EVs since 2023, and it's expected to take another big hit. So this has me wondering, are financial losses and investor expectations a big part of the reason that Ford is shifting away from some EVs?
Yeah, there's no question about that. And it's the same for all the automakers. Let's not just talk about Ford. They're the most recent and perhaps had the highest profile announcement about backing off from EVs. But if you go across the industry, whether you're talking about Toyota or General Motors or Mercedes or Aston Martin, it really pretty much is across the board. All automakers are reconfiguring their EV strategies. And one of the things you're seeing is that there are new technologies that are coming out. Some of them are the better batteries. There's also a new technology called the extended range electric vehicle, where the next generation F-150 Lightning, it will return, and it will have this technology on board. What you're going to do is you'll have a slightly smaller battery pack than the one in my Lightning. It'll have an internal combustion engine. And if you're towing or if you're going very, very long distances and, you simply wouldn't be able to pull that off well just on electric propulsion, the gas engine will kick in and it'll act solely as a generator. So it will actually provide current to charge up the battery and keep powering up the electric motors that are driving the wheels.
That is some impressive technology. I mean, of course, for you as someone who's really quite immersed in this milieu of cars, it's impressive. But for someone like me who's really not, I'm sitting here listening to this and being quite amazed. I do want to talk about the political climate a little bit and how that is factoring into what we're seeing right now. I mean, we would be remiss not to acknowledge that EV tax credits ended at the end of September. The Trump administration rolled back fuel economy standards. How much of Ford's decision to not support as much EV production and EV infrastructure would you say is a move to follow the political winds?
Oh, certainly that's part of the factor, but so is the reality of what consumers told Ford. Ford originally planned to build about 25,000 of those F-150 Lightnings annually at a special facility they set up in Dearborn, Michigan. They misread their own research, and they expanded the production capacity of that facility to 150,000 a year, which was way, way, way beyond what consumers indicate, even when those tax credits were there, even when Biden was in office. So a lot of this was wishful thinking and overreaction. Certainly with Trump in place, he is the anti-green power president. As you know, he believes that windmills cause cancer. He doesn't like solar and so on, and he's taken a lot of steps to hurt these technologies. He took charging stations out of federal buildings. He told the federal government to sell off all of its EVs. He changed the federal fuel economy standards and blocked California's standards. And now he most recently helped back Congress when they took away those $7,500 tax credits. So when you add it all up, and he also took away money for the federally backed rollout of charging stations across the country. When you add it all up, that certainly puts a lot of negative momentum into the move to EVs.
It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. My guest is Paul Eisenstein. He's a contributing editor for Headlight.News. We're discussing Ford's decision to phase out its EV F-150 truck, which Paul is a proud driver of, and shift away from EVs in general. I do want to spin the globe here, if we could, Paul, because all of this is not happening in a vacuum. China is selling its electric vehicles around the world, and BYD is now the #1 EV producer, and that's despite its vehicles not being available here in the U.S. Are American automakers like GM and Ford concerned that they're going to lose out ultimately to China because American politicians like Trump, who is taking all of these actions that you just listed, are not supporting and subsidizing electric vehicles?
Oh, you hit a very important point. I had a chance to drive a couple of Chinese EVs while I was out here at Consumer Electronics Show. They were able to bring them in, and we had some time driving them up at the Las Vegas Speedway. And they have gone from being, the Chinese products in general have gone from being really bad to being remarkable. I was blown away by a couple of the Geely products that I drove the other day, and I talked to people in Europe and other parts of the world who have access to these Chinese EVs and hybrids and extended range vehicles, and they are very much impressed. If you look at Mexico, if you look at Europe, the sales are exploding. Chinese products in general, exported, have gone from 1 million exports at the beginning of the decade to, I believe the final number last year was 8 million. And the vast majority of those are electrified. Now, part of it is they're subsidized. Many of them are subsidized by the Chinese government, so they are able to offer them at a lower cost than they probably would otherwise in key markets. You see Europe, and you're soon going to see Mexico put tariff barriers and other things to try to level the playing field. But this is a real concern. The Trump administration, by effectively trying to get U.S. manufacturers, everybody here, to back away from EVs, risks the fact that these automakers are going to be increasingly non-competitive in overseas markets. And that's a very big concern. You know, China is now the world's largest electrified vehicle market, EVs and plug-in hybrids and other extended range electrics. So this is a real concern. And you see it, you see what's happening in the fact that Chinese domestic brands now dominate the Chinese market. Only a few years ago, General Motors was one of the largest brands over there. Volkswagen ruled the roost in China. So the Chinese automakers are becoming powerhouses. And globally, Detroit automakers risk being marginalized.
Would you say, Paul, that is one of your big takeaways from being at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas?
Well, watching what the Chinese are doing in the automotive world is definitely concerning, and it's in every aspect of the auto industry. They're getting better products in general. They're really starting to dominate in the electric segment. They're getting very, very good in autonomy, which, by the way, is probably the bigger story here at the Consumer Electronics Show when it comes to automobiles. And they're also, here's an interesting one, the Chinese are also getting very good at new manufacturing technologies, including humanoid robots. You wander the halls here at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and everywhere you turn, you're seeing robots that look more and more like and can walk and function like humans. And the Chinese are racing to get ahead in that field as well.
It sounds like there is going to be a lot for American manufacturers to do in order to really stay viable in this global market. Paul, before I let you go, there was some interesting news with Ford this week. Texas Senator Ted Cruz wanted the Detroit Big Three automakers to send their CEOs to Washington. Ford CEO Jim Farley said he didn't want to show up. Then the U.S. Senate postponed the hearing. Why didn't Farley want to testify, and what do you think is the purpose of the hearing?
Well, Senator Ted Cruz, who is the chairman of that committee, didn't hide the fact that he wanted to use the hearings to sort of blast all sorts of federal regulations, which he blames for the high cost of automobiles in the U.S. And, you know, we're at or very near record prices. The typical vehicle, as it's driven off the lot, is now coming in at about $50,000. That's up from $35,000 just 10 years ago. So it's becoming increasingly difficult for the typical American to buy a vehicle. As to why Farley decided to drop out, one of the things that bothered him, and I think it's a legitimate issue, you had the Detroit three CEOs on tap. Mary Barr from GM, Jim Farley, of course, and Antonio Filosa from Stellantis, which, you know, is the latest generation of Chrysler. What you didn't have on the list was Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Instead, Ted Cruz invited an engineering executive. Elon Musk was not on the list, and Farley said, wait a second, you want us CEOs there for Detroit, but you're going to have the head of engineering for Tesla No, we need to, if we're going to have Tesla here, Musk should be as well. And Cruz acknowledged that it could turn into a bit of a circus because people would be raising questions about Elon Musk's ties to the Trump administration.
But to his point, where's the accountability if Musk isn't there?
Exactly. And Tesla prices are fairly high. They are not, interestingly enough, they are not really coming up with the affordable EV that we're seeing from the Detroit automakers. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be seeing a $30,000 EV coming from Ford Motor Company starting in 2027. General Motors already has something just over $30,000, and they're going to be bringing out a cheaper model in the coming months when they reintroduce the Chevrolet Bolt with a B. So if anything, I think Elon Musk would probably be hammered a little bit because he doesn't have plans to get his EVs down into the $30,000 range.
Paul Eisenstein, contributing editor for Headlight.News. Paul, if you're a gambling man, good luck in Vegas. And thanks so much for joining us on the Metro.
Good to be with you.
We'll be right back on the Metro here on WDET. Stay with us.